I'm Roger Baker, Executive Director of the Stratfor Center for Applied Geopolitics at RANE, a global center of excellence for geopolitical intelligence and analysis. Learn how you can put geopolitics to work for your organization at ranenetwork.com.
This is RANE's Essential Geopolitics Podcast. I'm Emily Donahue. Welcome. The African National Congress Executive Council says it will back South African President Cyril Ramaphosa against an impeachment inquiry. But the corruption allegations against Ramaphosa is not good news for the country's ruling party. Here to walk us through what's happening and what comes next is RANE's sub-Saharan Africa analyst, Clara Brackbill. Clara, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Would you please start with the allegations against Ramaphosa?
Yes, definitely. So these allegations date back to June 2022, when former South African spy chief Arthur Fraser had alleged that a close aide of Ramaphosa brought large sums of US dollars from across Africa and the Middle East to the president's Johannesburg residence, and then took that money to his game farm in the northern Limpopo province. And Fraser claimed that robbers then stole between $4 and $8 million from the farm, which he alleges Ramaphosa never reported, but had political allies investigate. Ramaphosa has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, but he did admit that about $580,000 was stolen from his farm in February of 2020, which he says was a result of the sale of about 20 buffaloes to a Sudanese businessman. So amidst all of this, there are questions about, one, where Ramaphosa acquired the money, two, whether he declared the money, and then three, whether or not he abused his position of power in any alleged cover-up. So then, following those revelations, a parliamentary advisory panel began its investigation into the alleged robbery and cover-up in August, when the Speaker of the National Assembly appointed a panel of 2 retired judges and a lawyer to determine whether or not there was evidence to support a case for impeachment. Then, most recently, the Parliamentary Advisory Panel released findings that recommended an impeachment inquiry on December 1st, which then led to widespread speculation that Ramaphosa would resign. But then on December 5th, the ANC Executive Committee then told party members to reject that advisory panel's findings at an upcoming parliamentary vote. So that parliamentary vote was originally scheduled for December 6th, but the ANC then postponed the vote until December 13th, which, as it so happens, is just 3 days before the party is set to begin its national conference, where members will elect the next ANC president, a position that's also currently held by Ramaphosa.
So, Clara, why is the ANC Executive Council continuing to back the president despite the advisory panel's recommendations?
Well, first, it's important to note that it was the Executive Council that announced its intention to reject the advisory panel's findings, not the party as a whole, as you rightly alluded to in your question. And this Executive Council is dominated by Ramaphosa supporters. But within the ANC, there's a rival faction known as the Radical Economic Transformation faction. And this tends to be, more pro-Zuma, the former president of South Africa, and also errs on the side of more populist policies, that this faction within the ANC has advocated for impeachment proceedings. So there's a lot of discord within the party. However, Ramaphosa's supporters continue to make up the majority of the party, overpowering his opponents. So this means that the RET, the Radical Economic Transformation faction, is unlikely to have sufficient votes, even if it bands together with external opposition parties in that December 13th parliamentary vote. Now, why, we get to the reason behind the executive committee is continuing to support Ramaphosa, is the lack of viable alternatives within the party. Despite the massive harm done to Ramaphosa's reputation by these corruption allegations, Ramaphosa himself remains more popular than the party, which means that the president still offers the ANC the best chance at re-election in the 2024 general elections. And with that in mind, And it's also important to note that Ramaphosa leads the next closest candidate in terms of this ANC convention by over 1,000 votes out of about 3,500. So, as such, Ramaphosa still looks like he has a good chance of winning the ANC top spot and maintaining his position.
So let's talk about these allegations and what they mean for the party moving forward. Will the ANC be able to govern? I know it has several other issues that it's dealing with domestically.
Yes, you are quite right. In the past, the winner of the ANC conference has had a leg up for the next round of presidential elections, which in this case are in 2024. But before that happens, in the meantime, even if Ramaphosa is able to hold on to the presidency of both the ANC and the country, these corruption allegations have already and will continue to weaken the ANC as a whole. And then the pro-Ramaphosa, more pro-business leaning faction in particular. So we already have declining national support for the ANC. Opposition parties like the Economic Freedom Fighters and the Democratic Alliance have pledged to rally around calls for the president to step down and push for additional legal proceedings, and as well hold public demonstrations against the president and the party, which have the potential to incite isolated instances of unrest, in addition to just creating even more discontent within South Africa. But then in addition to that, and perhaps equally, if not more important than that, the allegations are also worsening these party divisions between the factions or within the ANC, that will make even worse the sort of hindrance in terms of the passage of structural reforms that Ramaphosa has been trying to pass since he took office. These reforms range from the banking sector to the state-owned power company, Eskom, to labor reform, to service delivery reform. And as you noted in your question, reform is necessary for South Africa, for these to improve in South Africa. But these corruption allegations make it even less likely that such reforms will pass. So as we look, to 2024 and beyond, Ramaphosa's, if not downfall, but sort of fall from grace as the anti-corruption president will, it looks like, deepen the political crisis within the ANC and also increase the likelihood that the party, which has ruled South Africa since 1994, fractures over the medium to long term.
Wow, a lot to think about there, Clara. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Clara Brackbill is RANE's sub-Saharan Africa analyst. You can find her work in RANE Worldview, our geopolitical intelligence solution for professionals, and in our consumer publication. Are you ready to put intelligence to work for your organization? Sign up at ranenetwork.com. That's RANE network.com. I'm Emily Donahue. And before I thank you for listening, I'm going to ask you a favor. You know you like this podcast. It's a great daily dose of geopolitical insight on major events. Tell your friends about it. Thanks. Until next time.